Welcome to the Swisspreneur Show, a podcast about startup stories and hands-on learnings from experienced entrepreneurs. My name is Sylvan, and I will be your host. So a very well welcome to the Swisspreneur Show, Ketevani. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Hi, Sylvan. Thank you very much for having me.
You are the CEO and founder of Logmind, an innovative company that develops big data analytics platform for the visibility and automated insights into unstructured log data. So I'm curious to learn more about what actually motivated you to start your own company.
Well, I think that the initial motivation was mostly the interest into the topic on a technical level, and then the impact and the size of the problem that I saw that we could solve at Logmind. And honestly, if you had told me 5-6 years ago that I would start my own company, I would be quite surprised, because my original plan after graduating from EPFL was to work for Google or for some sort of big company, and starting my own venture never crossed my mind. And I think I changed my mind once I started working on this topic during my thesis. And then I continued working on the same subject while I was working at CERN for a bit. I saw the problem that I could solve, that could have a high potential and that could be also, commercially viable as well. And I decided to go for it.
Maybe let's talk a bit more about that problem. Can you talk more about what problem that you actually solve with Logmind?
Yeah, sure. So at Logmind, we're solving big unstructured data problem. So what we build is that we build cloud-based log data analysis platform that automatically identifies problems from the organization's application, infrastructure, log data, and gives the real-time insights and recommendations to the IT teams so that they can detect and solve problems proactively.
And why is that actually a challenge for the IT teams? Like, how do they solve that right now? And what does your solution do better than the current state?
One of the biggest challenges that they have at the moment is that the current tools that they are using, they're mostly very manual. They're based on rules, based on manual searches. And with that, they spend about 40% of their time trying to manually investigate and detect the problems into their applications. And another problem is the nature of the log data itself, right? Because logs are very special type of big data that is usually you have, about 5 billion log messages that are being produced on an enterprise level application. And it's very, very time consuming to figure out what's going on into this data.
You also talked about the size of the market that attracted you. Do you have any numbers that you can share there, how big the market actually is?
So the market is quite big. I would say it's about like 5 billion market only in Europe, if we take IT operations analytics. And if you go in any big, large company, they all have the same problems and they all use the same way of doing things and the solution. So they all have, I would say, the same similar problems.
So now we experienced the problem that you're actually solving. I'm curious to also learn more about the team behind Logmind. What experience do you actually bring to the table to tackle this issue and to build the company behind that?
Yeah, so we're 7 full-time team members at the moment. 4 software engineers who are working on developing the backend and the software part and the front-end part of the platform. And almost all of them have some sort of experience designing, developing, or managing some sort of complex or enterprise level application. And then we have 2 data scientists / machine learning engineers from EPFL. And they're working on more on an experiment side than the ML part of the tool. And then it's me. My background is also computer science. And at the moment, I'm wearing multiple hats. And my main current job is business development, sales, and I also lead the product development more on a high level.
Got it. Sounds like a very strong team, but it's also apparent a bit that the business part is a bit estimated or probably understated in the team. So
yes.
How do you deal with that? Do you actually need any business know-how to do sales and marketing, or how do you go about that at the moment?
So, the great thing is that our customers are also technical people. And so we can easily find the common language to them. And that makes things easy. And I also learned a lot of things about sales and customer engagement. And so it's quite interesting thing for me also to learn. But of course, we definitely need the team members who will be more professionals on that area as well.
Well, yeah, you can get there in the future, I guess.
Sure. Yeah.
Let's also talk a bit more about the milestones. What were some milestones that you've recently achieved with your company?
We have made quite good progress lately. So we recently signed our first enterprise customer, which is quite exciting thing. So we have also had good progress on signing and reaching an agreement with several companies for proof of concept projects, from which one is the largest Swiss company. We're very excited about that. So there is a lot of things going on behind the scenes, both on a customer acquisition side and also on the product development side. And as for the product side, so we recently released the new version of the solution with new UI, new user interface. We also improved few functionality that was actually added the new functionality that was requested by our customers. And so it's our main focus at the moment is on the customers, on the product side, and probably next thing would be maybe the focus on fundraising as well.
Perfect. We'll talk about that in a second. Before we do so, I'm also interested to learn more about the competitive landscape. So how does the market look like that on that side? Are there any competitors or any alternative solutions to what you are offering in the market?
So the current commercial and open source log analysis tools partially solving the problem by providing the ability to search into this data, visualize this data, also to define some sort of rules. And one of the biggest problems is that the searching process is usually taking place when the problem is already known for the IT team. And the rules also make sense if you know in advance that you're going to have some sort of problem. But one of the biggest problems is that in this kind of very complex environment, there is a lot of unknown problems that have never been seen or exposed. And with these kind of traditional tools, it's not efficient to do things. So what we basically do is that we really provide the full automation to detect the problems, correlate the problems, and also recommend the users about how they can solve these problems. So this is quite, I would say, precious thing to have.
Absolutely. Were you also able to protect this precious thing that you do in any way with like patents or anything of that sort? Because I know this is always tricky if you have software, but maybe you found a way.
Yeah, it's tricky to patent your software. We have not tried that because that's not our main focus to, file the patent or something. Maybe that could be something in the future. But I think the only way you can protect things is to constantly innovate, propose something new, take it whatever you have and build up something even better. So I think that's the only way to go.
So also looking back, at the past months and years, I'm sure that there have been challenges that you had to solve. So what was probably one of the biggest or toughest challenge that you faced, and how did you actually overcome it with your company?
Well, I think there are many challenges, especially when you create a product from scratch out of nothing. And when you're trying to find your product market fit, when you have to sell your product, and then build a business around it. And I think that, so it's especially tricky when you do things for the very first time. And when you are a first time entrepreneur and when you have never done something like that, so everything is very, very new. And I think that the thing that I found is very useful to minimize the risk of big failure is to learn from your small mistakes, to be very agile, to be very flexible, and to really learn from your mistakes and from your past. And also what I found it very useful to really listen to the other people, because you hear a lot of opinions around, and you don't necessarily need to agree to all of the ideas that you hear, but there is always something to take and learn based on that. And yeah, so if I go back to your original question, I think the toughest challenge maybe was very early beginning of the journey, when we had to start everything from nothing, and there was a lot of uncertain things that you don't know. And once you overcome your fear and then used to this way of doing things, then things get better, and you can even have fun with it.
Yeah, you get used and you adapt to that new situation, right?
Exactly.
Then it becomes the new normal. Great. So you also mentioned that fundraising is probably the next thing for you and your company. So I'm wondering, like, how much money do you need, and what are also milestones that you actually want to achieve with the funds that you are raising?
Yeah, so we planning to start fundraising process. We are in early in the preparation. So we expect to secure about 400,000 Swiss francs, half from the grants and half from startup loan. And besides that, we decided to go for the proper seed round, and we want to raise about 1.3 million. And I think this would help us to have a runway for next 18 months to 2 years to be able to build, proper sales and marketing team, because as we talked before, our team is very, very technical at the moment. And the goal for the next 2 years is to reach about minimum 1.5 million annual recurring revenue, which basically means, I would say, at least minimum 15 new customers in the next 2 years. And that's kind of our milestones.
Perfect. You also talked about, just acquiring the largest Swiss company. Do you also have any plans to go international and acquire companies or customers from abroad?
Yeah, we actually had some discussions with the companies from UK and Germany, because when you talk, usually some multinational companies, they also have the offices all around the globe. And so it doesn't necessarily need to be only Switzerland, but we started from Switzerland because it helps us to be in a close communication with our customer, and that really helps to have a good communication.
Yeah, I guess also to further develop the product, and being close to the client helps in that regard, I can imagine.
And I think that the constant feedback loop from them in this early stage is very crucial.
Absolutely. Do you have any timeline until when you would actually like to have the seed round closed, or what's your timeline there?
The timeline is at least the end of this year.
So now, before we finish the episode, I also prepared some rapid fire questions for you, so people and listeners get a bit more behind the scenes look of who you actually are as a person. So the first question is, what was your summer job as a teenager?
Well, my summer plus, full-time job started after graduating from high school in Georgia. And so I started working as a web developer in one of the most well-known web development company at the time in Georgia. And, we were working on a websites for, the government organizations and some big firms. And I was very, very proud of being part of that team. And even probably I was not the best developer in that team.
But I guess, it was really cool to be part of that well-known organization. Yeah. Cool. And what are you most proud of in your life?
One of the most important things that I can think of is probably what we are doing right now, and what we are working and what we're building at Logmind. And even though we are still on early years of our journey, I'm very proud of our team and what we have achieved so far. And there is way more to do, and I'm very excited to see what the future could bring to us.
Right. There's much more to come. Absolutely.
Yes.
And the last one for you today is, what's a surprising fact that people don't know about you?
That's an interesting question. Honestly, I don't have an answer on that question. And I cannot think of anything at the moment. And maybe, there are some strange things that we are doing every day, and that seems totally normal for us, or maybe odd for others. But I cannot really think of anything.
Yeah, that's hard to discover on your own, right?
Yeah.
Great. Hey, thank you so much for taking the time, Ketevani. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I wish you and Logmind all the best of success, and looking forward to hearing more about your company in the future.
Thank you very much, Silvan. It was also a big pleasure.
We would like to thank our sponsor, SBB Startup. The Swiss Railways launched their own startup program, so no matter if you're already an established company or just have an idea, they are eager to hear from you if you think that your company or your idea is a good fit to the Swiss Railways. You can get in touch with them at sbbstartup.com, and they will support you with internal connections, with coaching, and also are very interested in launching a pilot project with you. So if you think that your product or your idea or your company have the potential to collaborate with the Swiss Railways, get in touch with them at sbbstartup.com. Thank you very much for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed the content, we would be thrilled to receive your rating on Apple Podcasts. That way you not only support Swisspreneur, but also help other entrepreneurs discovering the show and finding more valuable information on how to run their businesses. Next week, we will already be back with an all-new episode of the Swisspreneur Show, so we hope to see you again then for a new episode.